There are three mega communities that are reshaping the map around DFW right now, and here's what you're going to want to know about this. Developers are betting billions of dollars that land around Fort Worth and Dallas is about to absorb tens of thousands of new residents, and they are not wrong. Right now, three massive master plan communities are being built or just got approved, and they're within striking distance of the DFW Metroplex. We're talking about a development in Waxahachie that could add enough homes to grow the city's population by 65%, and a $3 billion community northeast of Dallas that just hit 1,500 homes with thousands more to come. And a California home builder just announced a $731 million expansion into DFW, their biggest bet yet in this market. These aren't small subdivisions, these are cities within cities. And if you're a buyer, if you're a seller, or you're a homeowner anywhere in the greater Fort Worth or Dallas area, what's being built in these communities directly affects your market. I'm Kirsten Openshaw, founder of the Fort Worth Pulse and the Openshaw Realty Group. So let's break all three of these down for you. Let's start south of Fort Worth, just down I-35 in Waxahachie, a city most people think of as a charming small town with a beautiful courthouse. But Waxahachie just made a decision that will permanently change its entire identity. In January of this year, the Waxahachie City Council voted 3-2 to approve the largest development ever known in the area. Here are the numbers on this. It's 3,170 acres. It's 13,270 homes. And it's located west of I-35, which is also south of FM 875. And it will be built entirely by one company. They're called Minto Communities USA. So just let that sink in for a second. 13,270 homes. At full build out, city staff projects this development could increase Waxahachie's population by as much as 65%. That is not a subdivision. That's a massive transformation for the area. Now, who is Minto Communities USA? They're a Florida-based developer, actually a subsidiary of Canada-based Minto Group, and they are best known for large-scale lifestyle communities, the famous Latitude Margaritaville projects. Their model is pretty unusual in the development world because Minto typically acts as the landowner, the developer, and the builder all in one. That means the vision stays consistent from their first home all the way to their last. And it means quality control across the entire build out. And it means the community that you see in the rendering is actually what's getting built. So what's going on inside of this development? It's a true multi-generational mixed-use community, traditional single-family homes. You're going to have villas, cottages, and townhomes. Active adult neighborhoods reserved for residents that are 55 and older. There's going to be apartments, there's going to be parks, there's going to be multiple new schools and commercial space woven in throughout. The groundbreaking is projected for middle of this year, with a build-out expected to span over a decade or more. Now let's talk about the vote, because a 3-2 council decision tells you this wasn't without some controversy. The three votes that were in favor argued that Minto's model actually gives the city more control than the alternative. Now, the land was going to be developed either way, right? If Minto didn't do Minto and cohesive way, the area could have organized into a municipal utility district, which is known as a MUD, and developed without direct city oversight. So supporters saw Minto as the better outcome. Now, the two votes against included the mayor, who reflected concerns that a lot of longtime Waxahachie residents share. Traffic on I-30, which is already congested, plus pressure on Waxahachie ISD schools, and of course, the cultural shift of going from a small town with rural character to a community with 13,000 new homes. Those are all legitimate concerns, and when they're the same concerns that you hear in every fast-growing Texas city, you pay attention because the growth is real and the infrastructure question always trails right behind it. So here's what this means for buyers and investors. The land around this development, all along I-35's corridor between Fort Worth and Waxahachie, it is being repriced right now in anticipation of what's coming. And if you thought about Waxahachie, Midlothian, or Ellis County as an affordable alternative to Tarrant County, that window is still a little open, but it is definitely moving to close fast. This is a city that is in a massive transition, and the transition just got a formal start date with this approval. Now let's go northeast of Dallas to a community that's being built quietly for years and just crossed a massive milestone that deserves a lot more attention. Lavon, which is located in Lavon in Collin County, just reached 1,500 homes sold and occupied. That sounds like a lot until you hear and understand the full scope of what's actually being built there. At completion, Lavon is projected to be a $3 billion community with thousands more homes still to come. The development is being led by MA Partners, and the home builders that are currently active on site include Marlin Homes and many other familiar names. This is a master plan community with the full package. It's got trails, it's got amenities, it's got retail, and the kind of neighborhood infrastructure that creates massive long-term community identity. Now, Lavon sits northeast of Dallas, which puts it firmly in the Collin County growth corridor, which is one of the fastest growing counties in the entire United States, not just Texas. And Collin County has been absorbing population at a remarkable rate for over a decade now. And Lavon is just one of the communities that explains why. So here's the angle I want you to think about as a home buyer. 1,500 homes is the point in a master plan community where the early mover advantage is still real, but the infrastructure is starting to mature. And the first 500 families in a new community, they're the pioneers. They're the ones that are betting on the vision. The families buying in right now at that 1,500 home mark, they're buying into a community that is proven. It already has neighbors, it already has some retail, but it is still priced ahead of what it will be when the final phase actually closes out. This is often the best sweet spot. So if you work in Dallas or North Dallas, or you're open to Collin County and the commute there, Lavon is worth a serious look. The $3 billion price tag on the full development tells you what the developers believe this land is worth. And at 1,500 homes in, they're still in the early chapters of that story. Now for the story that I think is the most telling indicator of where the DFW housing market is headed, and it comes from outside Texas entirely. It comes from California. Homebound Homes, which is a Californian-based home builder, has officially announced a $731 million expansion into the DFW market. That's nearly $750 million that's being committed to building homes right here in this region by a company that's been watching from the outside, and then they decided now is the time to move in. So let me put all of this into context. California-based companies don't just come to Texas because it's cheap. They come because they see a market that is growing, that has pricing power, and that has a runway of demand that justifies a major long-term capital commitment. A $731 million commitment is not a test. That is a very clear declaration. Homebound has a specific model that's also worth understanding. They use technology to streamline the custom home building process. So think of them as a tech-enabled home builder that brings more personalization and efficiency than a traditional volume builder. So when they enter a market like DFW, they're not just adding more of the same thing we've been seeing. They're actually adding and bringing a totally different approach. So what does this mean for the DFW housing market overall? It means supply is coming, and that's actually healthy for buyers who've been frustrated by the limited inventory we've been seeing. New builders entering the market create competition, and creating competition means creating options, and options create better pricing and better products for everybody. But it also means that the outside world's confidence in DFW real estate is at an extremely high level right now. When the money flowing into California's real estate market decides to completely redirect their $731 million into Fort Worth and Dallas, that tells you something about the relative opportunity that these investors and developers are seeing here. Now, for homeowners who want to sell, the demand signal embedded in this announcement is bullish for your home's value over the next 3 to 5 years. For home buyers, the smart move is to get in ahead of the supply wave, not after it. Because when $730 million in new homes hits the market, the buyers who are already in position, they're ready to benefit from that rising tide. So, what do these three stories all have in common? A developer from Canada that's building 13,270 homes in south of Fort Worth, a $3 billion community in Lavon that's already a third of the way built, and a California company committing $731 million to DFW. All three of them are making the same bet, and that is that the population growth in this region is not a fleeting trend. It's structural, it's long term, and it's large enough to absorb massive amounts of new housing without oversaturation. And here's the thing, they have access to data and capital that most of us simply don't. These are speculative moves, these are calculated billion-dollar commitments that are made by organizations whose entire business model depends on being right about where people are going to want to live. They're betting on Fort Worth, they're betting on the DFW Metroplex, and they're betting massively on Texas overall. I don't know about you, but when that much money makes that big of a bet, I absolutely pay attention, and you should probably consider doing the same. Now, we covered a lot of ground today, literally, from Waxahachie, south of Fort Worth, up to Lavon, which is northeast of Dallas, to a California home builder that's spreading $731 million across the entire DFW market. But the theme across all three of these stories is very simple. The DFW Metroplex is in the middle of a generational growth cycle, and the developers and builders who build for a living, they are showing up with their biggest bets yet. So if you're a home buyer who's been on the fence wondering, if now is the right time, or if prices are going to come down, or if you should just wait another couple years, stories like these are your answer. The people with the most information and the most capital clearly are not waiting, they're building. Maybe you should too. If you want to stay current on every major development happening in the Fort Worth and DFW market, subscribe to Fort Worth Pulse. And if you're ready to buy or sell, my team at the Open Shore Realty Group is here to help you navigate this market with confidence. My link is in the description below.